most businesses will eventually be automated. Your McDonald's will be automated. Your, everything you could, any service will be automated. And, a lot of people, you could either fight it, have fun about it, or you could use that power to advantage, get on top of it, learn about it, quickly implement it, because these things are going to happen whether you like it or not. So I hate, meeting lawyers who get stuck in their ways. Instead, go with the flow, go with where the world's heading, and look ahead.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Answering Legal's Everything Except the Law podcast. I am your host, Nick Werker. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the podcast where we share expert advice on all the parts of running a law firm that attorneys weren't exactly trained for back in law school. Now, in the past, things like working virtually or cutting down on working hours may have seemed like a fairy tale for those running growing law practices. But in 2022, many attorneys have been able to achieve both, largely thanks to the guidance of people like our guest today. Sam Mollaei is the founder and director of Legal Funnel, which is a company that helps lawyers grow and automate their dream virtual law firm. In this episode, we're going to be hearing about Sam's Legal Funnel system and getting tips on how to create a law firm that can completely run by itself. Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm super excited.
Me too. So I want to get things started off today by talking about one of the major turning points in your career, which in 2015, I know you decided to quit your law firm job and start a virtual law firm. Can you tell us a little bit about the decision and how things have ultimately worked out for you?
Sure. So I worked at a traditional employment law firm where I was kind of doing discovery work like a traditional lawyer. And then and I wasn't loving it. I was actually depressed from doing that work. And the moment for me when I realized that something has to change was I would come in to work at like 8. By like 8:05, I was already looking at the time. Like, okay, what do I have to do? So I started soul searching, talking to as many people as I could. And I met one of my friends who was a law firm owner, and he was a young guy. And he's like, "Oh, I'm on my own. I've been doing it for a year, getting clients, and I'm getting by." And that was enough for me to see that if someone else can do it, so can I. So soon after, I've been creating my own law firm. But the problem was, law school didn't teach me how to get clients and how to run the business side of things. So in my first year, I had a lot of time, started reading a lot of books, watching a lot of YouTube videos, reading as many blog articles as I possibly could. And I kind of went neck deep into learning as much as I could about running a law practice. And then my epiphany came when I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek book that exposed me to 3 key principles. One is the virtual business model, so to run your business from anywhere in the world at any time. Second was automation, how to create a business that runs completely on its own, kind of like a drop shipping e-commerce business where people just come and order, and then while you're sleeping, people start purchasing from your store. And third part is scalable. Scalable means be able to grow without you necessarily doing more work, and it's able to grow again without you, pretty much it grows while you're sleeping. So I was like, this sounds all amazing. These are all ideas that make sense to me. What if I could apply this to my law firm? So at that point, I made a decision. I'm going to grow a virtual, automated, and scalable law firm. And I started looking around. I'm like, nobody's doing this. I'm like, okay, so I'll be the first one to kind of put this into practice. It took me about a year or two to kind of figure things out, started getting clients from it, proof of concept done. Now let me try to see if I can duplicate it. So I duplicated it over and over. Then I started doing it for other lawyers. Then at that point, about 4 years ago, I met my mentor, who kind of exposed me to, hey, instead of focusing on just one law firm, why don't we go create as many law firms as we possibly could? You focus on what you're good at, which is client generation and creating all the backend systems for the law firm to run in its own. It could be, and let's try to duplicate that over and over. So we did that. And then that was the journey for a couple of years. Now, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been on the journey of passing all the practical ways that I've been able to automate my own law firms that are actively running. I have 7 virtual law firms, and sharing all those secret sauces with other lawyers.
So I hear all of what you're saying, and I know that our audience might be taken aback by like your sort of progressive approach. It's not every day that you meet somebody who's taken 7 law practices completely virtual, made them scalable, You don't have to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of a departure from the norm. So I know that there are a lot of listeners that immediately put up a wall, and are sort of, I don't know.
FUD.
What would you?
FUD is basically what it comes down to: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Whenever people hear new things, new ways of how things are run, for people's first instinct is like, how can this be done? This doesn't work. This doesn't work for me. Maybe this works for you, or maybe this works for specific practice types. But that's usually the initial reaction. But it takes work, and it takes going through the hurdles and through the challenges and obstacles to see, no, there's always a way around things. There's always a better, more efficient, quicker way to get around these things. And that's what I've been able to get through in the past 6 or 7 years, to get through all those hurdles, all those FUDs that I had myself, had all those doubts myself. But I was able to work through it to see how can I apply these concepts to my own law firm. So that's the only difference. It's not just the initial reaction versus working through it.
Understood. So I want to ask you more in depth about that. Is what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you have sort of overcome in running your practice virtually, and what do you say to lawyers who you try to encourage to run their practices virtually?
I think the biggest hurdle that lawyers, law firm owners are dealing with is doing too many things themselves. And that's how most law firms start, where you kind of have to be the accountant, bookkeeper, and this and the biller and all that stuff. But you have to go through a transformation of being able to trust people and systems to be able to take off a lot of the tedious and repetitive things off your hands. I know what your company offers is pretty much be able to answer calls. That's an easy one to delegate. Everybody should be beyond that stage. Delegate the calls and let me go instead focus on the things that I'm best at and I enjoy doing most. And for everybody, that's different. Some people enjoy the legal work. Great. I just had lunch with somebody who just only loves talking to people. Great. Let's get you to only talk to people and make videos, and everything else delegate it. So it's just that literally trusting yourself and trusting other people to be able to delegate to people and delegate it to systems.
So when someone sets out to start a virtual practice, what do they need what do they need to have in place, right, first, in order to be successful in a virtual environment and really take advantage of what you're talking about here?
You don't need much. That's the cool part about virtual. It's very little expense. Now my mind always goes towards the client generation first. Can I generate clients for this field, for this new law firm that I'm going to start? And that's where I go first. And at this point, I've kind of been able to systematize it through a series of questions that I ask either myself or people that I'm going to enter this new relationship with to be able to start a law firm. And I'm going to pull it out and see what kind of questions they have. So if you're thinking about either going into new niche or new practice, this is what it comes down to, these particular questions. Just give me a moment to pull it out. So first is clearly explain the problem your clients have before they hire you. The problem is where we start at in plain language. Second is what's the geographic location you can target? Ideally, your state. If you can be federal, even better, but definitely not city. City, I don't think is enough for you to be able to consistently get enough clients for you to have a scalable automated virtual law firm. Third is who are your top 3 direct competitors? Who's in your field? Go study who they are. Are they running ads? Are they not running ads? If they're running ads, who has the best websites? Okay, what can we learn from that? Next is what qualifying questions do you want your leads to answer? So for you to qualify them to see whether you can even call them to see whether you can sign them up. So qualifying questions, and these are like pre-qualifying questions, not intake questions, kind of qualifying questions is the way that I kind of look at it, which I'm sure answering legal helps you guys be able to establish those. Next is describe your ideal dream client. Who are they? How old are they? What are the job titles? What do they look like? Male or female? Things like that. Next is what are the specific results your dream clients get after the case is settled? Okay, the result, not what they get, but the result of what they get. So not a, this is for immigration lawyer. You're not helping your clients get a green card. No, always take it to the next step. Now that they have a green card, what's a result? How does it make their life better? What do they benefit? And what do they avoid as a result of that? So it's a second layer. Next is, do you have any proof of you being able to help your clients? These Solomon checks, happy clients, those are things that make your marketing much easier, and your website and your funnels help optimize for that. Next is, do you currently have a database of these contact information of your potential clients? Okay, instead of maybe trying to find new people, what if one of we set up some automations to go reach out to all those people? And then, and I think that is like the big gist of it. So, and then the other thing also is like, what's the average client worth to you? So that way we could figure out the numbers, work it backwards. Let's just say a client is worth $5,000. If that's the case, what's your conversion rate when you do get a lead? You usually just say 1 out of 5 calls turn into a client. So if that's the case, your target, let's actually, let me back it up. $5,000 is your average. How much are you willing to spend to get a $5,000 client? Usually want to have a 300% ROI. So if that's the case, I'm willing to spend $1,500 to get a $5,000 client. If that's the case, how many leads do you convert to turn into a client? Let's just say 1 out of 5. So if that's the case, my target cost per lead is $300, and then work backwards to help you decide how much you can spend in marketing. And so that's the math side of it. And then pretty much what I just shared with you in the last 5 minutes. I know it was kind of like I did it quickly, but if need be, go back, like rewind it 2 minutes, break all those down. And that is pretty much everything you need to be able to start a law firm with all the marketing, with all creating the websites and the funnels and everything you need to be able to run a successful law firm.
So I want to talk about specifically your legal funnel system. Can you tell us about your system's origins and give us an overview of what lawyers can not sort of expect, but what can lawyers accomplish? How far can they go with your legal funnel system?
So the first limiting belief that a lot of lawyers have is this legal funnel or funnels and sales funnels that I've been hearing about maybe it works for transactional, or maybe it works for this types of lawyers, all that stuff. And that is a misconception, and it's false. First of all, funnels work for all practice types. It just depends on how you apply it. But if you want to get clients, funnels is the systematic way for you to get those clients. With that being said, the funnel is broken down into 3 steps. First part is traffic or client source, whatever you want to call it. It's basically, where are your potential clients coming from? Okay. That usually simplify it. Let me just simplify it for you. Either it comes from paid ads, either you do some kind of, you pay for it, or you go produce content and you create value for people to come to you. I like paid ads because it's a lot more scalable. I'll be able to, if it works, I'll be able to turn it up. It's also a lot more trackable, and it's just and then you also get quicker results. So I usually tend to always start off with paid ads to be able to prove whether I could generate clients. If not, if I don't have time, if I don't have money, then I have more time on my hands, then that's when I go produce content and create value in the market. So that's the first part. Second part is, now that you got your traffic, then you want to send them to a funnel. Essentially, all a funnel is you getting their contact information and nurturing them over time through emails and videos to kind of get them to not sell them upfront. You never want to push them upfront. Hey, sign up right here. Instead, it's a long, elongated kind of process of building a relationship, building trust, likability, to get them to take your desired action, which for most lawyers is to give me a call or to go here to schedule a call. And the third part is automation, which is basically a series of emails. And again, things that are automated to be able to over and over follow up with your prospects to say, hey, I know you probably have some questions about this. Let me send you a video about this. Hey, you probably have these questions, or you're probably wondering, let me show you these case studies. And by setting up these automations, these emails and texts and videos are automatically being sent to your potential clients over time. And all those things are directing people to take one desired action, which is, again, give me a call, just go schedule a call, or go sign this retainer agreement. That's kind of like a short gist of it. How that's applied for your law firm, how you implement it for your law firm is pretty much what my program helps you implement. But that's basically just the gist of it.
We will be right back after this short ad.
When a client calls, they're really looking for immediate service. Because we have Answering Legal, we're able to see every client message, and we're able to contact our clients immediately. My name is Margot Gaines, and I'm a partner at Gaines & Musico. We started using Answering Legal because we were unable to answer all of our phone calls. Answering Legal has allowed my firm to get hired on numerous clients that we never would have. We get messages throughout the night and on the weekends. Sometimes we're in court or we're dealing with other clients. And because of Answering Legal, my partner and I are able to address any client concerns or any new clients immediately, and it's really increased our business. Answering Legal has allowed us to service our clients in a way that their needs are met and their phone calls are answered, and we're able to spend more time doing the things that are necessary for our clients.
When I look at you and everything that you're talking about, I see you as like the blueprint for how a law firm should really run as a business, especially as it pertains to marketing, advertising, generating clients, and doing what you're talking about, right? Becoming this virtual, like SaaS, right? If lawyers have ever heard of service as a software, making the process by which you sign up with a lawyer a lot easier for the consumer. So
systematize it pretty much, right?
Exactly, systematize is a better word.
Yep.
But I'm curious because I'm very anecdotal in my approach to learning about things and talking about things. I want to know what your personal favorite stories are about lawyers that you've helped who have used your legal funnel system, and what they've been able to accomplish as the result of working with you.
Actually, just came from lunch from one of my students who's been with me for 2 years, and his life has changed so much because he came in with so many limiting beliefs about money, about business, about client generation, that it was hurdles that kind of prevented him from growing. So one of those things was he wasn't spending money on marketing because he was always thought that it costs money, or there's money. If you got to spend money, that's like you're doing business wrong, or maybe you could save that money and, spend it on yourself. And I came in, it was like one of the lessons we kind of mentioned in today's lunch was that this whole idea of you got to know your numbers. How much is a client worth? So if the client is worth, 5K again, then how much are you willing to spend to make a $5,000 client? And you got to have that number in your head. So that was kind of like the math that I shared with him, and just that one idea helped him be able to spend money and spend it correctly with, again, knowing the math and be able to spend according to that math. And that really opened up his eyes. And now, he went from like generating, like, I think he was doing about 8K per month. Now it's about 50K per month, which for him is life-changing, obviously. And that's just one of the many stories. I have another one who came in, making less than 10K a month. Now he did $1 million in a year. But there's a lot of these case studies, but the factor in all of those is just taking the things that are very actionable and actually putting it into practice. And since then, I've been able to kind of understand that, like, I don't want to make that the limiting factor. Can I depend on the lawyer to implement these things? So ever since then, I went and basically hired a support staff of a tech team to come and help lawyers do two things: implement these things, and then hold lawyers accountable for anything else then that needs to be done to implement these parts. So the implementation is always the most important.
Sometimes I'm shocked because it seems to me that most people have this idea that lawyers are like ritzy and rich and they make a lot of money. So whenever I hear about like a struggling law firm who's able to achieve this sort of financial freedom that really everybody kind of wants for themselves, right? The security is what we're going for when we go out into the world and try to make money. I'm always shocked to hear the amount of growth that is within the realm of possibility for smaller law firms. So I'll have particular clients come to me sort of like you, and they'll say, I'm a very small law firm. I do less than, I don't know, 300,000 a year in business. And I've got an associate and a paralegal, and, I'm just looking for X, Y, and Z. And in a short amount of time, as they're able to grow their firm and delegate these things, they can triple or the possibilities really are endless. It's kind of crazy to see the amount of financial possibility that there can be for law firms. And I want to ask, because I know we were just talking about your book. I want to ask you specifically, what's the book about, and how does it relate to you helping lawyers sort of achieve this like level of financial freedom and also time freedom, right? Like we're talking about virtual practice. How does it help lawyers achieve this freedom?
Totally. So in 3 years into what I was doing about sharing and dealing with lawyers, helping lawyers be able to create these systems, I was able to kind of figure out exactly what are the biggest pain points that law firm owners were having. As you mentioned, Nick, it's that freedom of time, having that control and freedom of time to do what I want when I want, and not and then for you to be in control of your law firm and the law firm to not control it yourself. So the book is called Virtual Law Firm Secrets: How to Run Your Law Firm So It Doesn't Run You. And it basically shares very practical ways for you to be able to create the systems and how to be able to hire virtual people, virtual assistants, to be able to take a lot of that repetitive and tedious tasks off your hands. What's cool about it is you don't realize how much your law firm can be automated until you read this book. When it comes to your client generation, obviously, following up with your leads, skipping your email inbox. If you have trouble kind of controlling your email inbox, that could be definitely be in control. Right now, I only answered 2% of my entire email inbox through a very automated way. How to gather a lot of Google reviews. I have over 3,000 Google reviews that I'm able to automate. So all these things that kind of shares those practical ways that help you do that. So again, to be able to save you time so you get more in control of your law firm.
So I've obviously noticed a trend, but I've noticed a trend in that when we were forced to quarantine, right? Like over the last few years, at first there was a lot of fear, uncertainty. I forget what the D stands for, but the FUD that you were talking about before, where lawyers would call us up who were customers and say, like, I need to decrease my overhead because things are going to shut down. And so, the first thing that's on the chopping block is my answering service, and they would leave. And then there was this frenzy of lawyers who were not our customers who were calling us up saying, I'm going to need you guys. We're headed into this like everybody's got to work from home and I need to make sure that my phones are answered. And that it shifted more towards that as we got more knowledge and less uncertainty about what was going on in the situation. So I want to know what it was like for you over the past few years, and specifically what attorneys were looking for when they approached you in trying to automate their practice. Were they looking for more flexibility in how they could run their firms, or did they feel like this was a necessary step? And was there sort of this like boom for you because of the result of the last few years?
Oh yeah, totally. Of course, the pandemic definitely helped my mission of helping lawyers go virtually for sure. But I basically had a 5-year head start on being able to implement these virtual kind of concepts before the pandemic hit. And by that time, I kind of had the experience to be able to quickly pass on those lessons. But I had to go through those same kind of, again, questions, FUDs, evolutions of myself. I would answer my own phone calls. Then I learned about, virtual receptionist service like answering legal, and I was able to delegate that out. Then I'm like, oh, I learned about Calendly. So started this, setting up those meetings. And over time, it was little by little. I don't think of like change doesn't happen instantly. It happens over time, but you do have to level up your game. So it is a little by little, revolution that you go through to be able to implement and automate, different parts of your law firm. But I could give you the light at the end of the tunnel is that your entire law firm could be automated. Your entire law firm could be automated. Okay. And this is the reality of it. And most businesses will eventually be automated. Your McDonald's will be automated. Your, everything you could, any service will be automated. And, a lot of people, you could either fight it, have fun about it, or you could use that power to your advantage, get on top of it, learn about it, quickly implement it, because these things are going to happen whether you like it or not. So I hate, meeting lawyers who get stuck in their ways. Instead, go with the flow, go with where the world's heading, and look ahead to help you determine where you should be heading.
So I think I know particularly those who are running smaller law firms, they have this mindset that, and you were talking about this before, right? Like it's mainly a mindset shift that we have to embrace before we can actually make the change. But the mindset is that they need to do everything themselves in order for their practice to be successful. I can't automate my marketing. I have to be involved in my marketing. I can't automate my call answering or my intake or my calendaring? How will I know? How will I ensure all so on and so forth, right? I could be here for hours explaining the examples. But have you found this to be true of the lawyers that you've worked with? And how have you gotten them to shift from that mindset and be more open to automating these tasks?
A lot of people have that FUD because they maybe you hear about it, but you got to see it visually, how it's done in practice. And then that's like the layer one. Let's just see how it's done. And then how it's implemented is layer two. And then seeing it in different ways that it's done is layer three. Layer four is seeing other people get it done. That's where now it kind of breaks more of your limiting beliefs. And layer five is when you implement it a little bit yourself and you see some good results from it. And then that's when you kind of like, okay, now you built the momentum to go build it more and more. But at the very least, the bare requirement is you got to be open to it. Your mind, you got to be willing to learn from people, be able to do things differently, be able to be growth minded. If you don't have those things, it's, nobody can convince you and nobody can show you anything. So you got to at least be open. But if you're open to it, the world of possibilities is all out there for you.
So let's say that some of our listeners aren't ready to make the shift to a completely virtual practice. Can following your advice and certain principles of what you teach still be beneficial to them? Can they kind of go a la carte to start?
Totally. And it's not, black or white, all or nothing. It took me, again, 7 years to get to this point for me to say, okay, now I'm running this, these automated practices, and it takes work and it takes time to be able to implement it. But yeah, totally. These principles are there. They're universal principles, and you apply these principles little by little to your law firm. So even a micro change in your law firm could be very game changing for you. And it's not just like it helps you make more money. No, it's about you. It helps you be happier. Because over time, what I learned is that success isn't, again, making more money or your law firm to grow. That's fine and all. If that makes you happy, by all means, do that. But I think over time, at this point in my life, my definition of success is doing what you love, what you enjoy, and what you're good at. So if I can get myself to get towards that zone of all the tasks that I enjoy doing and I'm good at, then I'm considered success. And that's what these automations and virtual and scalable, all that does, gets you closer to that goal.
So if our audience wants to learn anything more about you and Legal Funnel, and they're interested in what you have to say, and they want to see this like proof of concept that we're talking about, right? Where can they go to find more and learn more?
So 2 call to actions. If you're interested in these concepts, you just have to go to legalfunnel.com. You'll see a page full of social proof of over 100 lawyer testimonials talking about our program. You just have to go there and book a call. And second is, if you want to learn more, you could go on Amazon and order Virtual Law Firm Secrets. Again, Virtual Law Firm Secrets, and grab the book. I promise it will change your life. It will be by far the best $9.95 you'll ever spend in your life.
I like the second part. Don't let your law firm run you. So, Sam, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me on the show today. And a special thank you to all of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will be back with another episode of Everything Except the Law soon. Be sure to check out previous episodes of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel. Links to everything covered in today's conversation, including the book, can be found in the description of this episode. See you next time, everyone.